Okay, so I'm at my machine here. I am on a Janome Memory Craft 8900 QCP. You can see I've got my walking foot loaded in here. I have a really lovely Gutermann thread. I don't remember exactly which green it is. I want to say it's like 592, but I'm not positive. I'll check that for you and put it in the comments if I find it. I'm using a 7511 Schmetz quilting needle. If this were a much thicker piece, I would probably use a 90 instead of a 75 needle, a 9014. But I think for this one, the 7511 is going to be just fine. And you can see that I've pinned this in a few places, but I've also spray basted it. I believe I used 505 to spray base this, which is one of my favorite spray base. When it goes on sale on Amazon, I usually buy like 3 of them at a time. So what I'm going to do is take out these 2 pins here in the middle, because I'm just going to start in the middle and do a little grid pattern in here. Because this piece is smaller, it's a lot easier to manage going through a domestic machine than say the king size Star Wars t-shirt quilt I just made for my husband for Christmas. That was a beast and a definite arm workout. All right, so I have my tension set on auto. As I mentioned before, if you're using 2 different threads in the bottom, in the bobbin, as opposed to what you're using for the top thread, you have to kind of play around with your tension first. I almost always get a test piece with the exact same type of fabric for my backing and my top and my batting. And then I run it through a few times until I get the tension right and make sure the threads aren't pulling all the way through on either side. In this case, I'm not going to worry about it just as much. I'm going to load this little guy in here. And I'm just going to start right up here in this corner. This is where you have to kind of play around just a little bit to sort of tease out where it is that your needle is going to land. And I want it right there in the center. So now I've got it right there in the center. What I'm going to do is put my foot down, and I'm going to put my needle down, and then I'm going to pull my needle back up. And actually, I forgot to set this. You need to, for this first one, you need to set it to about a 0.2. So basically what you're doing is this first one, you are pulling the bottom thread up through the top. You see it pop up right there, I think. And once you have that, then it's a little bit easier to manage your threads, and you don't have a lot of weird things that get bunched up on the bottom side of your quilt, or in this case, your table runner that you have to deal with later. So right now I'm just going to put a few stay stitches here. I have my my stitch length set for 0.2, so it basically holds it in that one place. Now that I have done that, I'm going to change my stitch length to a 3.0, which is what I normally use when I am top stitching or quilting something. And I'm going to try to make sure that I have this needle set so it's going to go right in this stitch here. And it might take me 1 or 2 stitches to get it exactly right, but that's really okay. In this particular case, since I'm using a green thread and half of what I'm quilting on is green, you shouldn't really be able to see it. And you really shouldn't be able to see too much of it either when you get to other colors if you're actually stitching in the ditch. Like, you might see a hint of it, but not a whole lot. And you can see I'm going really slow here because I haven't done this in a little bit, and I just want to make sure that I'm getting it right, that I'm not doing anything that's going to throw it around, and that my machine is behaving as I want it to behave. So when I get to the end of this square, basically I'm doing this 9 square patch here, and I'm going to do 3 lines down. I'm sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4 lines down this way, and then I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4 lines down this way. But first, and I could also just turn this. This piece is probably small enough I could just turn it, which is what I might do. But when you get to the end here, you've got a choice to make. You can either stop and put a few stay stitches in and then go up and do your next row, or in this case, I think I'm going to go ahead and go up 1 or 2 more stitches here, and then I'm just going to turn this little darling. Let's see, I didn't quite hit that one on the mark. We're almost there. And I'll just go all the way around this square. As I said, this is a small piece, so I can kind of throw this around a lot more than I would a bigger piece. A bigger piece, I would have stopped right there, done my stay stitches, pulled my needle out and gone to the next starting position. But for the sake of this one, we're probably good right here. Now, when I'm doing the rows and columns in between, I am going to have to do exactly what I just said to you, which is start and stop, or I can choose to just go around in smaller squares, but that kind of doesn't make a whole lot of sense really, because I'd still have to go back and fill in a couple other patches. All right, so we're just going to move right on around here. And this one, I'm just like almost on the mark, so I'm going to back this off a little bit, change my stitch length to be a tiny stitch length, and then see if I can't get back on track. With this particular machine, it's a little tougher because it doesn't want to change when you're sort of mid-stitch and you've got your needle down already. There we go. And there I fell out of the ditch a little bit, so you're going to see that stitch. You do have to make choices sometimes when it comes to this, in terms of whether or not you're going to pick that out. I'm probably not going to pick it out. I just don't care that much. It's something that's going to be on my table and probably will be obscured by a bowl or a centerpiece anyway. All right, so what I'm doing right now, because I'm at the end of my square, I just changed my stitch length back to 2.0, and I'm going to come right in here and put a couple stitches, and then I'm going to just cut that right off. And from here, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move right on down this column here. I'm going to find my starting point. My stitch length is still set to 2.0 right now. I'm going to put that down, pull it up, and pull up that bobbin thread, put a couple more stitches in, and then change my stitch length to 3.0 once again, and down we go, right on down this column. So this just tends to help keep the back of your work a little bit neater. It's a little bit easier to clean up. You have your bottom thread on the top with your top thread when you start. When you stop, they're both going to end up on the bottom, and that's okay too, but you have everything kind of in one place on one side or the other. You're not doing multiple threads on both sides in the same spot. Okay, now I'm switching back to my 0.20, and at 0.20 I'm putting a few stitches in there and cutting it off, and I'm going to move on up to the next one. So you get the idea. That's the rhythm, that's the stitch. There's not a whole lot to it. When you're working with a piece that is just straight lines, basic geographic dimensions, this is a super easy way to go in the main. You do have to pay attention. It's not like you can just sort of willy-nilly start stitching. You do have to watch what you're doing. And if you're like me, you probably need to have some readers to help you see some of these smaller things in here. Or other glasses. So if you need eyewear, or if you just need a little bit of magnification, if you're a little bit younger than I am and you just need a little magnification for whatever reason, just make sure you have something handy, something easy to help you out. Don't strain your eyes when you're doing this. And also make sure you have plenty of light. That's also really quite essential when you're stitching in the ditch, because you just really have to, especially with some of these fabrics that kind of blend together a little bit, you need to be able to distinguish what's what so that you can actually stitch in the ditch as the namesake says. All right, that's it.